Bannerlord can be a brutally hard game. Often you're outnumbered and massive armies march against you. Well, in this new series, we're going to work together, friends. What I want you to do is send me your difficult situations that you're either currently encountering in Bannerlord in your campaign, or something that you've dealt with in the past where you're just unable to solve it. I will do my very best to handle these difficult situations. I will share the results on YouTube, provided they have some kind of educational value for people. We will take on these difficult challenges, do some battlefield analysis, and hopefully help you turn around a very, very difficult battle. So join me on this adventure. Please send me your difficult situations. Have a little patience. I don't know how many there are going to be, but I'm willing to take these challenges on for you fellas as we handle your disasters of war. Alright friends, welcome back to the Tactical Enlightenment and our Disasters of War series, where we strive to work with players to solve difficult Bannerlord situations together. Now before we move on to today's episode and instructions on how you too can participate in these episodes, I want to say thank you for this ongoing support and interest in the channel and this new series, Disasters of War. I've caught up to the backlog of requests, but in order to keep from flooding the channel with this series, we're going to release the first 15 episodes as private links to our Patreon supporters. These links should be ad-free so that you can binge watch at your own leisure on our Patreon site for as little as $2 a month as I continue to experiment with this ad-free platform. In addition to these Disasters of War episodes, we have all kinds of exclusive content from the epic Valandian campaign, Shokuho tactical guides covering firearms, and much, much more. Finally, Patreon supporters continue to have priority when it comes to problems, personal questions, and custom character placement in our epic campaigns. Thanks again everyone for your support, and let's get to today's episode and also how you can join in on this new series. This new series, Disasters of War, is basically a combo effort. We are going to work together, and what I mean by that is you are going to provide difficult save games or situations that you want me to analyze and try to solve for you, whether it's part of a campaign or something like that, and I'm going to show you how to do that, right? I have my Windows drive here. It shows my different various drives, and most people should have this little sidebar right here where you have documents and videos and downloads and stuff like that. All you do is you go to this little folder that says documents, and this should be the same for most people, although obviously it depends on what Windows version you're using. For me, I just click this button, documents. It brings it right in here, the Mountain Blade 2 Bannerlord folder, and then you go to game saves, right? Now you're going to have to search by date modified. Probably you can actually see these are really old save files. It's amazing to think that I was starting to play and I was probably getting rocked by looters in early January of 2022. But all you do then is take this save file and attach it to an email or however you send an email and send it to the email link that's in the video description. That's it. I'll then review it and see if it's worthy of an episode, and hopefully your name and your solution will be one of our episodes. All right, friends, that's all there is to it. Hopefully I can see your difficult challenges and we'll take a shot. Thanks again for watching, and now we'll get to today's episode. All right, this looks like it. All right, welcome back again, friends, to another episode of Tactical Enlightenment. Our YouTube channel is dedicated to all things Bannerlord related. And welcome back again to our Disasters of War series. This series is where we collaborate on episodes. You guys send in difficult situations, maybe even impossible situations, and then see what our experience here and tactics on the channel can yield as far as results. Now, I'm just going to read part of his email here as I put it up on the screen. It says his name is Kia Ora from New Zealand. That's amazing to me. We have this international audience. Hello to the Southern Hemisphere. New Zealand and where I live are actually very similar from a beauty and climate perspective. So it's almost like my brother here from down in the Southern Hemisphere. He says, I've been struggling to defeat this Valandian army who is about to take over Pencannock. We both have 1,000+ troops. Power bar is 50-50. However, because I am the attacker and they're sitting at the top of a hill being pussies and not letting me trap them at the bridge, sounds like he's having a difficult time. And then he says, it'll be interesting to see how you deal with this. he says he has no problem defeating armies when they attack, when he's defending, but he's struggling with offensive battles, which he hasn't seen much in this series yet. And that's very accurate here. He says, feel free to change anything with my troops, etc. I appreciate that leeway there, brother. We'll go ahead and take a look at this situation. But like this entire series, this very first run here, this first couple 4 minutes, we're going to analyze the battlefield. Now, this is an advantage for me as an attacker. We are going to do some of these series where I fight the battle first without this analysis. But in this episode here, I'm not too concerned about it if what he's talking about is accurate. You can see the power bar almost favors him, not quite, but if they take a defensive position here, then I can understand how it would be difficult. They don't have a lot of crossbow, but they do have some. And of course, anytime you're fighting uphill, it's quite literally, that's where the saying comes from, an uphill battle. So we've got to change a few settings here. We'll fight everything on Bannerlord for this episode. We'll make sure he's got some very strong gear here. I may change a little bit of this in the second run, but this all looks fine. He looks like a very solid warrior with some good equipment here. Let's go ahead and just launch into this battle. Again, normal player damage. And he did say a few mods were different, and we'll talk about those in this battle here. We'll use this little RTS cam. He says he does not use the battle size mod, right? So 1,000 max troops on the battlefield. Let's just assign a captain here to his cav archer division, and the rest of the companions doesn't matter too much. We won't make dramatic changes when we fight this. Now, the enemy is way up the hill, so we're just going to go ahead and engage the sergeants as we enjoy this spectacularly beautiful game. I mean, this really is an absolutely beautiful game. But before I get too carried away with the beauty of it, notice what's going on here. Of course, his troops are barreling forward. This is the AI's idea of a formation. I saw the orcs using this in Lord of the Rings, right, where they just stampede everything in their path. There's absolutely no order here. You got archers mixed in with the infantry. Everybody really looks like they're zerging the cafeteria because someone said there's free donuts. That is the AI's tactical formation. The only thing you could say here that looks reasonably ordered is they have a vanguard of infantry at the back, and they're controlling Dylan here, of course. We will fight this with more order and intellect in our attempt. Now, what do we got going on here? The AI has a pretty good skirmish line, right? They have a long line of archers stretching across the full screen here as his troops get cut down here. And we will speed this up using the RTS mod. I can kind of speed it up and slow it down, but it is difficult, right? You're approaching uphill the whole time they're gunning you down. And I imagine very soon this infantry is going to emerge in front. The archers will kite. The cavalry is coming in here, in fact, and Dylan's army is going to have a hard time. I keep saying Dylan's army. This guy's name is not Dylan, it's Kia. I believe I'm pronouncing your name correctly, although hopefully, right? You never know. So sometimes Southern Hemisphere stuff is different. My wife and I are actually watching Alone Australia on Netflix, and we're enjoying all the different animals, patamelons, and all kinds of different things that are incredibly foreign to us Northern Empire. I was going to say Northern Empire fucks, us Northern Empire friends. I love New Zealand. My wife and I can't wait to go to New Zealand and spend time there. That'll definitely be something that we do in the future. Now, this is a mess. We're just going to speed this up here, but I'm going to slow down a particular part of this. We'll wait for it to happen first, and then we will focus on it. Kia Ora here is playing with a normal battle size, which is what a lot of players play with. And what I mean by that, I'll slow it down here before it happens. You can see the total numbers of troops on the battlefield are about 800. Sometimes it gets as high as 1,000, but it's a system setting where the maximum troops on the battlefield at any given time is 1,000. And because of that, what happens is you get reinforcement waves. Now, it didn't actually happen as severely as I thought, unless it happened behind the enemy. Oh, it did. Oh, shit. So talk about your troops being in a pickle here. I mean, that caught me totally off guard. These are enemy reinforcements just blitzing his troops from the side here. Now, this would not happen to me normally when I fought this battle. What I mean by that is with the settings that I typically play. We play with the battle size mod, which allows up to 2,000 units on the battlefield. And in most battles this large, you get the vast majority of your troops on the field at the same time. Now, here's the problem for Kia and other people using these settings. Look at his troops barreling in here. Now, this is really bad AI, but they are trickling in, 20, 30, 50 against the whole Valandian force. and that is what you face, right? Just a giant cavalry avalanche. Meanwhile, your reinforcements are trudging uphill, trying to join the battle. Look at these dipshits holding their shield. Good job there, dude. Hold that shield up. You're really going to do a lot with that shield. 300 yards from the enemy. The initial wave of his was destroyed. Now the Valandian force is pouring down the hill. Of course, they're still enjoying the benefits of going downhill, and I can talk about that a little bit too. But the bottom line is because the enemy was the defender, and it's an important concept to a lot of guys to conceptualize. This is where the Valandians started from, and this is where Kia's team was forced to attack them, his army. This, in fact, they just popped out. This is where his reinforcements are coming from. That is hundreds of yards as these dipshits roar in excitement. Hundreds of yards from where the rest of his mates are being slaughtered. So as his mates are slaughtered here, the rest of his troops are not able to help. Now the Valandians might even get more reinforcements. They did, and when they get them, they're almost instantly into the battle. This is why you want to play defense at Bannerlord, and this is precisely what Kia is talking about in this situation. Now he's got these guys coming up now, but these guys really do look like the guys charging the cafeteria, hoping for a free brownie. It's a bunch of hapless recruits and volunteers, I guess, the Britannians. They're swinging their hammer. I love the hammer, right? Just trucks guys to the ground. But the hammer here is being laid down by the Valandians as they pour into the bridge here, hundreds strong. And now there is a bridge battle, but I imagine, yeah, we're way behind at this stage. And what I mean by we is the Britannians are way behind. You can actually see they've suffered 800 losses, and they've only killed 400. So it's a pretty big loss here as this Valandian force smashes our troops that are left. And guess what? The Valandians are going to get even more reinforcements, right? Because they haven't even had the troops die yet. Now it says it looks like it's about a 1 to 2 kill ratio here as he gets smashed down the hill. The Valandians almost don't even need the next reinforcement wave at this stage because they have pulverized his army so bad. I didn't actually expect it to be this bad, but this was a thorough ass whipping. Now, ironically, the Britannians are now in defense in this battle. I realize this is a long pre-battle, but that's how bad it is. We just got routed off the field. We won, right? The enemy cheers. And unless I'm looking at this wrong, the enemy has far more than half of their forces left. I think the numbers were about even before the battle, and look at this, right? He's not captured here. He's got 200, but for all intents and purposes, this battle is over, and you have no choice here but to just run away and let the Valandians win the day here with this army, right? You tuck tail and run here with your 200 troops and go lick your wounds in the corner. Now, it didn't send in his full army, it looks like, but you can see why Kia Ora is having a difficult time with this battle. This was pretty dramatic here. Now, we'll fight this over again, and we're going to use tactics, but we'll use these same settings, and I will talk about my approach to dealing with a stubborn defensive army hiding in a good defensive position near their reinforcement spawn. It's one of the hardest situations to deal with in Bannerlord, and hopefully I can shed light or whatever, hopefully I can give you guys some of the ingredients you need to win this battle. So half a second or two will be reloaded here. You guys will barely notice a thing, right? Just let the anesthesiologist says, you're going to be done in a minute here. All right, let's load this back up and let's talk about some of the constituencies of this battle that are very important for players who are experiencing difficulty with this kind of scenario to handle, to be able to understand. We are going to talk about angles of approach. We're going to talk about using terrain to our advantage, and we're going to talk about the reinforcement system. Now, very briefly here, we're going to look at his unit again, just to make sure there aren't any banners that we could really add here that would be highly beneficial to a battle like this. He's got a really nice mix of captains, actually, for all the different people who have written in and showed basically their army. And it takes a level of boldness to do this, right? You're essentially hanging out your laundry for other people to observe. Some people don't have a dryer, and so they have no choice but to do that. In this case, people are volunteering to do this. And I really like it, right? He's got javelin-wielding two-handed axeman characters here with increased movement speed. There's actually not a whole lot I would do. Looking at his army here, he's got units with decreased taken ranged attack damage. I like it. It's really a nice mix of captains, and Kia here is really utilizing his banners quite well. So let's go ahead and just change this to Bannerlord. We're just going to jump right into battle here. There's not a whole lot to change. In fact, I didn't really change anything. Scum Valandia. Now, just glance here again. It's a nice looking character too. I would say Kia, it must be swinging by the channel a lot, or some of the doctrines we talk about on the channel are becoming a lot more popular because he has a lot of the same character designs that we suggest. Going plenty of weapon skill, endurance, and then of course focusing on intelligence. You want to have intelligent units in Bannerlord. Now it's going to take me 60 seconds here to reorganize the units, and a lot of times I do this from scratch. Now he does seem to be using a lot of the same units that we do on the channel, a 5th division, a 2nd division. He looks like he has a skirmisher division in the 3rd. I know this is going to be a bummer, especially if he wants the save game back, but we're going to change these for familiarity's sake. Playing somebody else's army, if I don't change these settings, the best way to describe it is basically it's like jumping in your car without adjusting any of the mirrors. I'm going to hit part of your garage when I back your car out. Now we made a 6th division here, skirmishers, right? We get that by shields and the javelins there, and 80% of this unit here has javelins. That's very valuable as a Battanian army. You also go shields. In fact, Battania really divides itself better than any other kingdom into these 3 divisions. This is clearly your defensive division. Very few javelins, and almost every guy here has a shield, a spear, and a sword. I call those sort of your standard line infantrymen. I think I might change the banner on that to something like this, because they're going to get shot at, because they're going to get attacked. This guy still has a decent list of perks. We're going to switch that guy out. I'm not going to do a whole lot of this, but just a few things where I'm sort of sharing the mind of an experienced player for you younger fellas, for you guys that are not doing this very often. Now, this is important to observe here. This is an infantry division, ostensibly, right? There's a sword there, and look at the Fiend Champ, right? Look at the Sergeant Crossbow. So, somehow these divisions got mixed. What I'm going to do here is basically unmix these divisions. The best way to do that is to simply reset the division. I don't know why there are archers in there. Sometimes, by the way, it happens because this guy is an archer. You see the crossbow skill? So sometimes the system's like, oh, okay, you're putting crossbow in there. Let's mix some crossbow in there. And usually that's not what you're going to want, right? You're going to want this to be a solid infantry division. In this case, we're just going to do the infantry with no button clicked here. And what I want is shock troops. Now, not every guy here is a shock troop, but a lot of them are. I see nasty falksmen. I see a few sturgeon shock troops. I see two-handed guys, line breakers. That's going to function beautifully. And this guy right here, increased troop movement speed. Use shock troops are the guys you want to move fast so they can close and get their hands on the enemy. Now, Dylan, we're going to put you in charge of the 8th Corps. Kia, we're going to put you in charge of the 8th Corps and try to get a few of these other captains here logically assigned. This guy looks like a nice archer. Now, he doesn't have crossbow skill, but he doesn't actually have a lot of crossbow in his army. Let's reduce this here. Sometimes we have to reset some of these. And a few of these guys will just drop into some of these divisions. I'm not going to spend 45 minutes trying to perfect this because, frankly, we're not going to need it, right? With the tactics that we use in this battle, even though the previous episode, of course, you saw the enemy destroy this force, I'm pretty sure if we use some intelligent alignments of units here, none of that's going to be necessary. Let's see. Archer, skirmisher. I do wish we had a skirmisher captain. Of course, I don't remember all his units, so I'm never sure, like, what's a skirmisher? What do they look like? My own campaign, you know, you literally know what guy goes in what division. And for you fellas out there, right, I would encourage you to do that, right? You're going to want to basically have guys that are consistently in the same divisions. You want to get to know these guys, right? It's one of the fun parts of Bannerlord is saying, okay, and here he has mixed infantry. I'm just going to, the simple way to solve this is just to turn the infantry either off or down, and then we'll zoom in here to make sure we don't have tons of infantry in this division, and it's all archers. All right, so you want to get to know your divisions, and you want to have those captains properly assigned. That alone can make a 10-20% difference in casualties. All right, so 4th, 5th archers, 6th skirmishers. Divisions look pretty good here. Now, we're not going to approach uphill. We know the Valandians are right here. We know their spawn, their reinforcement spawn is right there. We know our approach here, and our spawn comes from here. What I'm going to do is go up to this bridge up here. In fact, we can start this battle because it's going to take a bit of time to run up there. We're going to start up high. We're going to essentially try to get the high ground here on the enemy forces. You can hold fire here too. There's no reason to waste a bunch of arrows. Your horse archers will shoot at 700 yards and it'll land in the grass. You might as well wait until you have something to shoot, right? See the whites in their eyes. So we're coming uphill here, and there are 2 bridges at this landscape. Now, the AI doesn't like this. It's going to be conflisticated down there, but it's not really adapting. A good human player, you would hope, would come uphill of you and basically make you cross this bridge under a hail of darts. Alas, we have to wait for some better AI coding before something like that happens. Now, we've already talked about this in the previous battle. It's going to be a potential consideration here. Our reinforcements are going to come on the other side of that river, so we're going to have to deal with that, right? The fact that our reinforcements probably are going to come down by those yellow trees right between my helmet there and where we are now, right? So what we're going to try to do here is make a defensive line of troops so that they're supported as they join our forces here. The other thing that's nice to know about reinforcements is it does typically come out in a line, and what I mean by that is it's going to be a line of troops 150, 200 strong. So we don't have to keep this line protected the entire battle. But right now, we're just going to stick this 2nd Division in a big long line, essentially where we're hoping our reinforcements come from, so that when they come out in this battle, they have a layer of protection and they will be able to rejoin the rest of us very quickly. Now, in the meanwhile, we're playing the old elevation game here, right? Elevation, you shoot further, your units... I mentioned this in the first battle. I wanted to get into it a little bit, and I'm going to not fight very much in this battle, I think. Unless it's really close, we're just not going to fight much. What we're doing here is basically using this elevation. It's not very much. It's kind of hard for the naked eye or someone who's not experienced a Bannerlord to even see. But all I'm trying to do here is move uphill of the enemy so that our archers are shooting downhill. That's a relatively simple concept, but it's one that oftentimes gets missed or players aren't taking full advantage of. Now, the other big advantage here is we have a lot of Fian units, right? We have a lot of Botanians. Your big advantage, and you need to know your advantages when you're playing whatever kingdom it is you're playing, is ammunition. Crossbow typically have 20 bolts, give or take. That means these enemy forces are going to be out of ammo way before us, right? They're going to essentially turn into melee units while our archers have plenty of ammo. We're going to take advantage of that fact. Now, this is a little perilous. You notice my 8th Corps here. This is the division that Kia Dylan is in charge of. I'm moving a shock troop division behind it. Right? That's our Falksmen and stuff like that, in case they get charged by enemy cavalry, which is likely. Their enemy cavalry's right over the edge of that hill. We see them here with our perfect vision that the system gives us. It's actually kind of unfortunate that you have this kind of information on the battlefield. I suppose some players who are not as experienced would have a really hard time without that. All right, infantry in the center, and we're not doing too much of that, right? We're just moving them up in shield wall, and you see our archers here are advancing. I'm just systematically moving these guys up until, wow, it's a little bit like the bedroom, fellas, until the green starts, right? We're going to do it, and I don't mean to be crass, but you know, you're trying things until good things happen, right? Now, don't run into the mountain like I did, but you can hear the arrows hitting them, and there's virtually no counterattack, right? Their archers are shooting uphill, so it's doing very little damage. Our shield wall's doing some work. And what's going to happen here is the enemy eventually is going to say, fuck it. The AI will throw their hands up in the air. In fact, I think they just did it, and they will charge. In fact, you know what? This is a perfect spot. The enemy might attack me a little bit here, but I'm going to command the whole fucking battle from this hilltop here. I'm committed to not fighting here, so we're just going to command. Let's see if they just harass me so much I can't even focus. We've formed a little bit of C-shape way over there, right? That's the 2nd Division, because where the top of my helmet is where reinforcements are coming from. And we're going to continue to just close the net here, right? We're just going to move these units forward. Archers, infantry. We can move our skirmishers and infantry up in the center. Most of this is standard precautions, right? You're moving up your cavalry and infantry in shield walls, right? Your 3rd Corps can be spread behind them. That's your Falksmen and stuff like that. Those guys aren't doing anything until this happens, right? As soon as the enemy cavalry charges, yeah, those guys charge, and the screen's going to flush green as all your shock troops, protected by cavalry, plow the road. If you want to make them extra safe, move your cavalry up, right, so that they have that shield wall layer protecting them. Meanwhile, our archers are very systematically moving up on the enemy, and that is because soon, if not imminently, the enemy's going to charge, right? I can promise you they're going to charge. They do not like being shot and suffering losses. Now, we're getting a UI problem. You hear it saying, charge, that's bad, right? Because that means all of my shock troops are being disobedient. I'm trying to move them back there. That time it worked. If it says charge when you do that, that's basically a UI error. The system thinks you want it to attack units that are there when what I really want to do is just move those guys there, right? I want them moving behind my cavalry for protection. Now the death spam looks good so far, and the dipshit AI finally fumbling into gear here. We're going to square our 1st Infantry Division. We're going to move this 8th Division to the flank of the enemy here. The 3rd Division is moved in. The 6th Division is skirmishers. They can just be told to charge. And when this division comes over here, this 8th Division, we're just going to slam it into the enemy forces here. This 3rd Division can be told to unleash hell. Now, the 2nd Division, we're going to lead there this whole battle. In fact, right now, I'm not doing anything with them. Your archers are just kind of standing there shooting. This 8th Corps, now that it's right in the face of the crossbow, can be told to charge. The 3rd Corps can be told to charge. You now have shock troops protected by cavalry boring through the enemy's flanks. In the front, the 1st and the 6th Division are going nuts. And at this stage, even though you've done this work to give these archers a nice perspective to shoot, I recommend that you either sacrifice a division by putting them up here. In fact, let's go ahead and do that. This is a bit of a sacrifice. I'm going to put them on top of the hill. They're going to suffer losses on the way up there, but the other division I'm actually going to pull back. Right? We're preemptively pulling back an entire archer division. That is because I anticipate reinforcements, and we want to get some guys out of there so that they're available to fight in the later stages of this battle, right? The enemy and us are going to get reinforcements. We've got one archer division that's kind of a compromise. They are getting elevation, and they are going to start raining into the flanks of the enemy, right? You notice, of course, we left them on this side of the hill, so they have a little bit of cover. Now, down here is carnage, right? There's all kinds of fighting. In fact, the enemy just got infantry right here, right? Remember we talked about it, their spawn point is closer. So we're going to kite with our archers here, but I already mentioned, these guys are kind of sacrificial. Your other divisions, you could definitely pull back at this stage, but my rule of thumb is if the enemy infantry is right on your infantry, just charge. Don't try to pull back, because all of those units will try to pull back, and while they're pulling back, they're going to get trucked by the Landian units, right? In fact, we'll just charge at this archer division, because they too are sort of a lost cause. Now, what did we get out of all that? We got a decent kill ratio, almost a 2-to-1, right? Not quite, almost a 2-to-1 though. We kept this entire cav division healthy. And this 5th Corps of archers is here now ready to support, because in the next 30 seconds, 60 seconds, we're going to get reinforcements downhill. This is basically going to put the brakes on an enemy attack. We've got cavalry out in front, just holding the line in the shield wall. It seems pathetic, right? We are sort of giving up on these troops that are in there. They are scoring some kills, right? Just like if I was playing here, we would run through and try to do some damage. But like I said, I committed not fighting here. I think you can win this battle without fighting at all. Meanwhile, though, we now have this buttress defense, right, for the next enemy wave. Now, these guys, I think a lot of them are out of ammo. You notice the crossbowmen just standing there shooting. There's an argument to be made for just pulling all these units back, right? Now, we've bought time for our archers here because they're pre-kited. You see the enemy coming in there? Well, that cavalry on their own is not going to be able to do shit. So let's pull back. And I'll talk about one more part of Bannerlord here that I think a lot of players don't really understand very well. The AI loves to be defensive in battle situations like this early in the fight. But once the battle sort of breaks into the 2nd and 3rd stages of a battle, the AI does a really lousy job of resetting its units, right? And if there's any developers listening, this is something you guys could definitely fix. Now, I'm quite sure I told your ass to get over there. I see the little green dots over there, and you are not obeying. And so, Kia, we show you what you do. He got the message, right? He's learning. Now, these guys coming up here, I don't know if you can see this shit. These troops right here, these guys are because those original divisions that those units were part of were told to charge. And this is an important part of reinforcements, right? Your reinforcements will do whatever the previous division was doing. So I had charged before with that 3rd division. They're still charging. They're like, yeah, let's charge, even though we don't want them to charge. The best thing to do is actually just tell everybody, follow me, right? Line and follow me. You put them in line because they move the fastest in line formation. You don't want guys in the shield wall and stuff like that. But this is the component of it that I'm talking about, and I think the AI is doing its normal doofus shit. Its normal doofus shit is basically
to charge. Once a battle gets to this secondary stage, the AI does an awful job of essentially resetting its divisions like we are here. You see all those infantrymen just charging in as if there's no tomorrow. Those guys are very, very quickly going to be killed here because they're badly outnumbered. Right? We have all these troops pulled back. Our reinforcements are scurrying into place here. And you have this sort of prison line of Valandian forces here cutting down some of our nobles, but there's no order to this at all, right? The AI has really descended into a sorry state here. Meanwhile, our units are set up, right? Now we have archers getting to different locations. You can charge here at this stage with some infantry, but what I would like to do while your unit's set up is actually play defensive. Right? Just form them into a shield wall. Your other units are setting up. Your cavalry is setting up. Your reinforcements are starting to come in. And a shield wall is a nice pause, right? For you commanders out there that are sort of freaked out by the speed of battle, the shield wall, especially 2 or 3 guys thick, does like the best job of sort of buying you time. An even better solution is a square, right? Just put them in a square. And when you put them in a square, have them back up. Even better, have them back up at an angle where your archers can fillet all the guys that are chasing them. These poor bastards here that are chasing the square, they're just getting dropped into the dirt one after another. Bannerlord starts to slow down once you start using units defensively, once you start getting set up like this. Now, the enemy's all strewn out here. We could just shoot them to death all day, but you might as well get these cavalry boys into gear here, right? This cavalry division, or the 2nd division, let's charge, right? They're just standing there. Might as well add their chaos to it. Your other archer divisions are guys that out of ammo, right? You see the sergeants there that are out of ammo. I like to charge, right? That's going to apply pressure. Every guy who's out of ammo comes up here, and suddenly these guys are thug-lifing all of this Valandian infantry. Have some of that, you bitches. Same thing with the other division. Even though they're uphill, unless every guy is shooting, and right there most of them are shooting, we'll charge here with the 3rd, by the way. Let me explain that. We have way more units now in the 3rd division than the units that are attacking them. That's your time to charge with that division. I prefer a shield wall, do whatever you want, but you play defense when the enemy has more troops than you, and when you have more than they do, attack. It's a sort of an age-old adism. I'm sure Sun Tzu said something like that at some point. Meanwhile, your archers are uphill. I don't actually see a reason to charge at these guys, even though some of these dipshits are out of ammo. Let's just charge at them for safety. We actually have, let's see, we got a few other divisions here that are sort of standing there. They can charge. Now the enemy's being collapsed on from multiple locations. More importantly, we talked about reinforcements, right? And here's the beauty of it. We've basically turned everything around on the enemy. The enemy's starting point is way back there, right? That's their spawn point. Our spawn point is right here. That means what we've effectively done is traded spawn points with the enemies. Now suddenly they're the ones that are getting reinforcements pouring right out on them, and their reinforcements are now, here they come in fact, they're now 3, 4, 5 minutes away. Let's anticipate these fucks here. Let's just be ruthless this episode. Let's get some archers up here, just spraying all their reinforcements because we can. Our infantry and cavalry there is certainly going to do more than an adequate job of just pummeling every single unit that they see. Now, we don't want to cross the bridge, right? Just like we talked about before, when you have the advantage in this situation, all your units, and you're on this side of the bridge, I've talked about this in other episodes too, make them come to you. Now, some of our dipshits are getting beat up on the way out of here, and a lot of our reinforcements are a long ways away. Make sure they're in line formation. It's very tempting or very common for commanders to keep army units in the same formation. If these guys are in a shield wall coming our direction, it takes them a long time to join the battle, and their mates need them, right? There's heavy battle going on here. We need to get those guys up to the battle line as soon as possible. Now, a lot of them I can see from here are those ghetto tier 1 Battanian infantry, but that's okay, right? All those guys swinging their little maces here. The enemy is really staggered at the back of the ring at this stage too, and your archers at this stage, it's a good idea to charge. Some of these guys for sure are out of ammo. This Fiend Champ here, he's out. There's a couple other archers. That Sword Sister, they're out of ammo. Add their swords to the fray here. When you charge at these divisions, they will then come up. Here's one of your Battanian lords, Fearad. He's like, yeah, let's kill him. Your hammer-wielding fellas come on the other side there. Your archers that can shoot will continue to shoot. They'll move up and sort of shoot as they move. And now you have your hammer all happening at the same time. Literally, in this case. All your little raggedy Battanians here with little blacksmith hammers. Your lords that survived all of that and shot all their arrows. And now the enemy is just steamrolled. So we've completely turned this battle around. I think in the first example, the AI had something like, I don't know, maybe they had 500? I can't remember the exact number. It seemed like they had a lot of guys left after that first battle, right? We had to charge their reinforcement spot. We've completely turned this battle around, and the results are virtually the opposite. So quite a lot to chew on there, especially for newer players. Kia looks like an experienced player, but we make these episodes for everybody. And what I mean by everybody, of course, is everybody who needs it. I never want to insult anybody's intelligence or experience with these episodes. There's a huge array of different experience and skill levels in Bannerlord, kind of like chess, right? There are people who don't know that the rook can only move in straight lines and stuff like that. I'm not here to insult anybody's intelligence. We're simply here to help you fellas. Now, we didn't do too well with your character, Kia. However, we smashed the bejesus out of the Valandians in this battle. Nobody died, and we still have lots of survivors. So, as I do with all these, I'm going to make a new save game here, but hopefully this was a nice, easy destruction for you guys to digest. I think what I will try to do is do an RTS overhead of this, and we're going to do it in a much more simplified form, much more. At least I hope I can include that. We'll see if it's visible to you guys. It's a little bit different, you know, shooting everything from the air, but I think I want to include that at the end of this episode because all of that is really easy for me, just like somebody who's been speaking Spanish for 2 years. Pero no hablo español muy bien. Aprendemos mi España, yeah, right. Mi esposa y yo are trying to learn Spanish, right? You get the idea. Bannerlord is a very complex, complicated game, and only my thousands of hours of playing it make it look that easy. That's it. Hopefully that was highly beneficial for you fellas. Hopefully Kia, hopefully you didn't already fight this battle and lose. And if you did, you know, at least now you've gained experience in this battle. I mean, we obliterated them, right? What do we have? Half our force left here after that battle, and there's just no more red, right? The red is exterminated. All right, I've talked way too long for this component. Let's move to a very quick RTS overhead perspective of this map. Again, a little bit of anesthesiology here. You won't even notice what's happening, fellas, and we'll be right back. All right, I told you that would be fast. Again, we're not going to adjust any of the divisions here. We're not going to adjust. Well, I am going to adjust the divisions. I just lied. We're not going to adjust the divisions, but we are going to adjust some of those presets like we had them before. Now, again, I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time with it, again, because we're trying to move this along. Now, even though I said attack, I can still switch to the RTS mod in a second. I am going to change these divisions really quick, and I'm going to essentially show you how I would fight this if I was trying to fight a quick but highly efficient battle here. And the main concept is we're going to try to do damage, have the AI, and I guess I should put a warning here. In fact, let me do it right now. What you're about to see is a little bit of the inner workings of Bannerlord. Some guys don't want to know this, just the same way they don't want to meet the cow before they eat the burger. You're going to be understanding how the AI thinks, and for some players that can kill a little bit of the joy, a little bit of the excitement of Bannerlord, because quite frankly, it's going to be a lot more easy for you to manipulate the enemy once you see this next component here. I give you that warning beforehand because I'm not trying to ruin Bannerlord for anybody, trying to make it easier, but sometimes the more that you dive into a system, the more that you pull back the layers of an onion, right, the more you learn, and it may not always be super pleasant. All right, that little warning aside here, I am, I guess, a perfectionist here, spending just a little bit of time. What I like, by the way, for people who are curious, I have a defensive line of cavalry and an offensive line of cavalry. For my defensive line, I almost always want something like that, only I want the higher version. Decreased taken ranged attack damage, because their primary job is to shield the rest of our units. So I want a division that's effectively defensive. Sometimes defensive can be decreased melee taken damage, but I want one or the other. I don't want like that. 5% is not bad, but I don't want somebody who's like, you know, they increase charge damage. I want my attacking division of cavalry to be a charging division. This again is the point I reiterated earlier about how it's very, very beneficial to have, I think I made up like a new word there. It's very beneficial to have 8 divisions, because then of course you can have divisions that do multiple things. Now, I think, yeah, the AI is in charge of your dude. We'll see what it does here. We're going to speed through all of this here. Again, I'm not trying to waste your time with these episodes. All right, so we'll blast through at 3.0 speed. You can see we actually slightly outnumber them here, and we'll race all our troops to this location. Now, I'll give you a little warning here. your cavalry move faster. Don't put your cavalry way out here. In fact, we'll see if we can trigger the AI to do it. If you put your cavalry way out in front, not only will they get shot by enemy archers here, a terrible ring defense, but they will also sometimes get charged by cavalry when the AI thinks it has an opportunity. It's like, oh shit, there's only 110 weak Battanian cavalry. Let's charge them there. Be careful of that, right? Because you can really take a beating if you're outnumbered by Valandian cavalry and being shot by their crossbow. Now we're going to move up very quickly here, probably so quickly that I make a few mistakes. But all I'm doing is basically making a C formation with our units and trying to put defensive units in front, infantry, cavalry, right, like we talked about in the last battle. And you notice again, trying to keep a little bit of a corridor open here to the south. Now what we're actually going to do is peel as soon as the enemy starts to come towards us. And what I mean by peel is we're going to move everybody to hell out of here. I don't anticipate actually having a lot of infantry battle in this example here. We're strictly going to try to do enough damage with our archers to make the enemy charge us. And I'll basically describe. I don't know the actual code, but I've played enough Bannerlord to know that once the enemy has in the ballpark of 15-20% casualties to their current situation, they adjust. And in this situation, we're simply manipulating them to do that. We want them to adjust. I don't want to charge their position for two reasons. First, they've got a entrenched position with ranged units firing away on us. I don't really want to charge that. More importantly, I want them to come to us so that we can use our reinforcements, right? Right now, the Valandians are right here. The reinforcements are going to come out almost where this dude is with the flag, right? So if we charge, if we send our infantry barreling right towards them, what's going to happen? Right, we're going to be fighting not only the forces that are there, but their reinforcements as well. So I'm going to continue to move our archers up here kind of aggressively. This cavalry division is purely defensive. They're there to eat arrows. These guys probably have arrows in their shields, right? If not, they're going to, or bolts, I guess, in this case. But they're also there in case the enemy cavalry, right, with that little white arrow is, in case they charge down. Just like Marshal Murat for the French Empire, we're screening our units with our cavalry. Now I'm going to speed it up here, and our guys are just firing away. Now they're finding a lot of shields, but they're also going to score some kills. Inevitably, guys get hit in the foot. Pikemen like this don't have a shield, and so they're getting hit and killed. You can see the death count is very favorable for us. Now, I know Bannerlord so well, and this is the part I gave you the disclaimer of. In the next, I'm going to say 30 seconds or so, the enemy's going to rush. In fact, it just happened. In the next 3 seconds, I should have said. We're immediately going to pull all of our units out of here. Now, we're going to leave this one cavalry division. These are, for those of you who are about to die, we salute you, right? We're pulling that division out. Or, excuse me, we're pulling all the other divisions out here, right? These guys, in fact, you want to shift everybody to shield wall, or excuse me, to line formation at this stage, except this second division. I would recommend you put them in a long line like that. These guys are the proverbial screens, right? We're using them to get out of dodge because obviously the enemy's coming right at our forces. Now their infantry is not really going to be a problem, right? In fact, they're sort of forming a line here. But look at the rest of their troops. They've completely given up on the defensive side of things, right? They're like, fuck it, let's charge. It's almost like that Bill O'Reilly video, if you guys have never seen it, where he loses his mind on the set of like the evening edition or something like that. You guys are probably too young to know what I'm talking about, but this was a Fox News caster, and he acts like a complete dipshit and just loses his mind because something happens that he doesn't anticipate, doesn't understand, and he rage quits, basically. All right, so the enemy just skewered a lot of our units, right? And you're like, well, fuck, you just kamikazed and killed those units to no benefit. No, I don't think so. The enemy's highly likely to maintain their offensive position here, their offensive trajectory. It's almost like they get drunk with success. The AI is like, we're killing them. Let's go, man. And it's going to be to their detriment. Again, I warned you fellas that maybe you would watch this and not be thrilled about it because it does sort of reveal some of the sort of secrets of how the system works. I'm aware that for some people it's going to be disappointing to learn that the system can be manipulated in this manner. Again, the AI is very excitedly, they're cheering, they're roaring, right? They must have a 51 kill ratio. What do we have here? Well, I guess we killed some with at the beginning with archery, right? But now the rest of the units are like, fuck yeah, man, we got this charge. And that's exactly what we want them to do, right? We are going to form a nasty defense, a bridge defense. At this stage, of course, most of you guys are like, that's how you do it, man. That's how you get a bridge defense. That's exactly right, fellas. This is exactly how, right? So we now have skirmishers on an angle to the bridge. We now have archers shooting over those skirmishers into the enemy ranks as they approach. On this side down here, we have the 8th Cavalry Division right behind those other infantrymen with shock troops protected. They're kind of downhill, and archers beautifully positioned here to just scorch everything that gets through. Now, a few cavalry sneaking through is not really going to upset us too much. Now, the 2nd Division is gone. Right? You notice they're completely gone. At this stage with these divisions, you can leave them standing there or attack. Either one of those is effective, but because we have these meat cleavers behind them, all these shock troops, I generally recommend a charge here, at least with that division. Now, the rest of their infantry is sort of filtering through. These guys really have no idea what they're doing. They're like, what are we doing? We're charging? I don't like this idea. Right? The skirmishers are here, and I'd actually recommend pulling your skirmishers over to the side so that all your archers have a nice line of sight here. Right? We're just completely abusing the AI here. The AI is, it's haptically sort of chasing both of these directions. We're going to let our archers work here for a few seconds, and then you really could charge, just an all charge, right? The AI is like, I don't know what to do here, right? They're getting completely shot to pieces and skewered. Our defensive lines are holding over here, right? That 1st Division that was at the front is holding, and now I recommend just an all charge, right? So it's kind of fun to do this. I don't do it very often. F1, F3 for the win, right? And we'll speed this up here because I've talked to you now for like an hour. And suddenly all the Valandians that cross the bridge just become fertilizer. Right now the archers are panicking. Oh shit, all our mates are destroyed here. We better send reinforcements. But glub, 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 right? They're going straight to the bottom of this river because we now outnumber them. Right? We now have way more troops here than they do, and that is because we moved away from their reinforcement spot. Now they're desperately trying to run here, and at this stage I could reset archer divisions and stuff like that, but I don't think we need to. I think the advantages we gained from that first little bit of combat are sufficient. We now have a steamroller of green coming through the middle. It's not going to be a blowout like those other battles, but that was the essential gist of that, is manipulating the enemy into an offensive role when they start defensive. That was the main gist of that whole episode, is not to win it. I did say we were going to try to win in a highly efficient manner, and on some level we could still do that here. We're going to, I think, just barely destroy their troops here, and then we could pull back. But what did I say before? If your units are actively fighting, you're actually better off just letting that batch of units fight, and then as you get reinforcements like this, you can kind of highlight the numbers there. You see how all of those are archers. We can pull those guys back. We can pull back an infantry division too. In fact, let's just go ahead. In fast speed, this is kind of harmless to do this, right? It's really easy. We'll let the rest of those units fight it out. Right? You don't want to sacrifice their lives without them getting some kills. See, they're still getting some kills there. Meanwhile, our next wave is basically ready, right? Down the hill here, probably out of sight at the enemy if I did this right. I think these guys can't be seen by the enemy. Right? You see that line of sight. The enemy can't even see all those infantrymen there. Just like before, the stupid-ass AI pours across the bridge. Meanwhile, you got archers positioned here. Let's move them closer in a big, long line. Some of those guys will get shot, probably. But the AI is down to absolute peasants at this stage, even though we're fighting this kind of in a hurry and sloppily. We'll wait a minute. We'll wait for these guys just to sort of jostle with our shield wall. You notice our shield wall's fighting back, right? Your shield wall will fight back. It's just not very aggressive about it. At this stage, again, the archer division gets told to charge. The infantry division gets told to charge, and the Valandians all go away, right? This is not going to be as successful as that first battle, right? That battle was fought with a lot more finesse, a lot more dexterity, a lot more intelligence, right? We used a lot of moves there that are thought out, that are premeditated. But this battle is still very, very successful, right? In fact, our reinforcements just poured in. I think the AI is fresh out, right? They're fresh out of reinforcements here. And it's not quite as successful, but we still have an awful lot of troops that are still alive in a battle where the AI got obliterated. So again, I'm not even going to save this one because we have the previous save game that we made for you, bud. But there you have it. Kia Ora, thanks for writing in here. I hope I'm pronouncing your name right, like I said before. But this is a deep dive into tactics in Bannerlord. And again, I do recognize for some guys, actually we had almost the same amount of troops. A thorough ass whipping, maybe even more. I can't quite remember. A deep dive into Bannerlord, and I am aware for some guys, I just told them that there's no such thing as Santa Claus, right? You're getting a deep dive into the system, into the AI, and that remains the numero uno thing. If for some reason there's somebody from Tail Worlds watching this or hearing about this episode, fix the AI, make it more deliberate, make it more devious, have them do things where it looks like a fake and then have them pull back Have their archers reset instead of just turning into a blob. Have it be a combination of the RBM AI, which is pretty dynamic but also predictable, and Bannerlord vanilla AI, where they do dynamic things, where they do interesting things, and it's a little bit harder for us experienced players to solve. And make it be a setting, right? There's 3 settings, I think, for the AI in Bannerlord, right? When you go to this thing here, you can go to the combat AI difficulty. One of these things should be, murderous or something like that, and very hard to deal with. That's just my little question and request here at the end of this episode. Now, my request for you fellas here is you hit that like button. I guess unless you didn't like it, and if you watched for 50 minutes and didn't like it, you must be a sadomasochist. There are support groups for that. I appreciate you fellas. Please subscribe if you want to see more from the channel, and I will see you friends next time.